Akira is a film that asks a lot from its audience. As a first-time viewer, you're thrust into a striking world, but with no understanding or directions towards the plot. The film takes its time revealing characters, motives, history, and themes, but if you stick around, it all builds into a crescendo that literally explodes, leaving you with a simple question: what the hell just happened? Thousands of critics and reviewers have given their take on this classic that spawned respect for Japanese animation in the West. But I don't do reviews and I don't do critiques. Instead, I simply want to give you my personal answer to the big question: what the hell just happened? Let's begin. Where will you be when it all comes crashing down? 30 years prior to Akira's story, there was a cataclysmic explosion which destroyed all of Tokyo, an event that forms the foundation of Akira's setting. By 2019, the city is rebuilt as Neo-Tokyo, but it's rotting from the inside. It's become a concrete cancer cell, continuously growing outwards while killing everything around it, consuming its inhabitants and infecting the populace. Everything we see is a mess. Biker gangs run wild. There's violence in the streets so often people barely take notice. All the while, the forerunners of the top 1% sit back and watch, collecting their money. For a film released in 1988, it's an incredibly poignant setting that is far more relevant today than it was when released. The series creator, Katsuhiro Otomo, predicted this future. The world of flashy lights, militaristic police forces, corrupt politicians, kids with no direction, a concrete jungle riddled by terrorist attacks that come and go daily, instantly horrific but forgotten immediately. However, there is another side to our story. Our main characters, Kaneda, the leader of a vigilante gang with a sick bike, and Tetsuo, one of the gang's members, grew up in this unseemly environment. However, a simple crash resulting from a gang war and a chance encounter changes everything. Tetsuo crashes into Takashi, a government-augmented esper who's escaped captivity thanks to a resistant member or terrorist, depending on who you talk to, of course. This crash awakens psychic powers within Tetsuo. He's then picked up by the Japanese self-defense forces, and Kaneda's entire crew is arrested. In a detention center, Kaneda's boner directs him towards Kei, a resistance member whom he helps release from custody, and the story is set in motion. In a government facility, Tetsuo is studied as his psychic powers begin to emerge. He's fed drugs to control his newfound abilities, but he experiences extreme pain and terrifying hallucinations. He eventually loses control and goes on an absolute rampage, destroying everything in his wake as Kaneda and Kei, as well as the government and their espers, try to stop him, to no avail. And yet, through all of this, through the majority of the movie, Akira is absent. On many people's first viewing, the expectation is that Kaneda is Akira. But like I said at the beginning, Akira asks a lot from its audience. It asks you to put aside your preconceived notions of how you expect a story to go, of what you believe the overarching plot is, of what you expect to be important, because that's not how Akira was written. The introduction to the film, the apocalyptic explosion, that was Akira. And that's what I want to talk about the most. In the middle of the film, Kei and Kaneda have a specific moment in which some profound ideas are revealed, but Kaneda is too much of an idiot to understand what Kei is saying. In this conversation, Kei speaks about ultimate energy, the idea that everything is comprised of a form of eternal energy. She describes how humans were once ape-like, and before that, like rodents, and so on and so forth down to the bacterial level. And even before that, we were part of the primordial soup, the very DNA that runs through our bodies existed in space dust created from the Big Bang. The origin of the universe, the singularity, this energy has been transferring itself from one form to another since its inception. That is to say, if something like that even has a beginning. This energy that has always existed continues to hold imprints of its original form, like memories. And this isn't as crazy as it seems. Matter, things like you and me, your desk, your phone, are all interchangeable with energy. There's very little difference between the two on the physics scale. Humans run off electricity, our bodies are like machines, but instead of batteries and wires, our food keeps our cells alive, which regulate charged ions, allowing our nerves to work with bioelectricity. Energy, just like matter, is never created nor destroyed, it simply exists and is transferred. It's the first law of thermodynamics, the conservation of energy. The energy within you that powers your body and mind has existed as long as there's been existence. It's flowed through all things that have ever existed. We use it to build, to reproduce, to experience. And on a singular scale, we might only generate enough electricity to charge an iPhone over 72 hours. If you took the entire human race and put that energy together, the kinetic potential would certainly outweigh our greatest warheads. Our memories are made of folds in our minds and accessed through charging them with our neurons, much like microchips process information when electrically charged. If energy is never created or destroyed, this means the same energy that passed through the memories and experiences of the universe is also passing through your mind as we speak. Akira was just a boy who could touch this experience. What if you could access that information? The line of eternal energy and everything it's been, is, and will ever be. What would you do to access that information? What would you sacrifice? What if that information fell into the wrong hands? The hands of a scared, jealous individual who hides his insecurities through violence and anger. In this world, knowledge is quite literally power. With access to infinite knowledge, the way we view the universe would change drastically. All potential would be unlocked. But would you still be human? Could you still be human? All of this brings us back to an important point. Tetsuo is a dick. However, whether or not that's his fault is up for debate. He's a young, pubescent male from a rotten city. He was abandoned as a child and raised by the state, where he met his lifelong friend Kaneda. But Kaneda was different from Tetsuo. He was strong, independent, fearless. He took on the role of big brother, leaving Tetsuo feeling dependent on Kaneda, weak in his presence, and giving birth to his need to prove himself. The world we live in is primarily made up of patriarchal societies. Men are expected to be strong, powerful, in control, protectors, but we aren't all like that. I would argue that most of us are simply scared, which we're arguably not allowed to be, which is why many of the men you know would never admit that. Not being allowed to feel creates cognitive dissonance, a mental dichotomy that is wreaking havoc on the United States as we speak. The male ideal is killing our people, both figuratively and literally. And yet, in our current time, the same exact year as Akira takes place, we cannot protect anyone. Imagine for a second feeling physically responsible for the protection of your family and it dawning on you that you're up against the impossible. Governments, militaries, police, weapons designed to destroy hundreds of people in a volley of fire, bombs, nukes. It's no longer possible for the individual to protect those we care about. One man entering your house or a wolf trying to take out your sheep is no longer much of a threat. Our greatest enemies are organizations run by other men, held up by columns of people vying for a semblance of power, pyramids of power, the masses pushing the illusion of control up until it lays in the hands of a few, supported by the many who strive for it. All of it accumulated into a series of buttons that can eradicate continents. So where will you be when it all comes crashing down? I hope you're safe. My therapist told me to relax, that I hold too much weight on my shoulders, that I'm too hard on myself, but I can't help thinking about the state of decay we're wading through on a daily basis. We exist in a Neo-Tokyo. My greatest fear is being this guy, or this guy. But I sure wouldn't want to be Tetsuo. Tetsuo is just a symbol. He's a castaway, a nobody, a loser, and he's pissed off about it. He's just another gangster and not even an exceptional one like Kaneda. So when he finds his infinite power, he goes out to cause chaos, to break the system, to destroy what he knows. Life means nothing to him anymore as he pops people like balloons, kills his friends, drowns his own doomsday cult, and treats military weaponry like toys. He finally has power, real power. And with power comes a sense of security. He uses all of this to lord it over Kaneda at long last. Finally, Tetsuo has no superior. So if you were a god, would you be a good god? Can a god even be held down by an inane concept like good or bad? Would it matter at that point? If Tetsuo is a product of his environment, is he not the god Neo-Tokyo deserves? Is he not the god Neo-Tokyo created in its own image? As Tetsuo rampages towards the only thing he thinks can threaten him at this point, Akira, Neo-Tokyo implodes. The military takes over, the politicians are arrested, the streets riot. The cancer finally spread to the bones. Despite Kaneda, Kei, and the military's best efforts, Tetsuo reaches Akira, who was dismantled long ago and stored beneath the Tokyo Olympic Center. It's a disappointment, both to Tetsuo and the audience. We've been ramped up to this climactic moment, and yet Akira is essentially nothing. A couple of tubes holding various organs, nothing to fight, no climactic explosion. Again, Akira asks us to put aside what we expect, and to let it tell the story it wants to tell. After losing an arm, Tetsuo replaces it with machinery, showing the irrelevance between techno and organic. He soon becomes completely overwhelmed by his new power and truly loses control. His body can no longer contain itself as he begins to expand outward, consuming all matter and taking the shape of a grotesque fetus. A shape which crushes his girlfriend Kaori within it. Flooding Tetsuo with her pain, he screams for the help of his only protector, Kaneda, revealing the small, scared child at the core of his being, at the core of all of us. In the mayhem, Akira is released, a small boy who was experimented on as a child. He lost control of his power and created the apocalypse that resulted in Neo-Tokyo 30 years prior. Once again, he creates a singularity, absorbing Tetsuo, Kaneda, and the Esper children Akira grew up with. Inside of this singularity, Kaneda touches the power of Akira, the ultimate energy, and within it he experiences the memories of the only other people who exist in this space, merging the lines between his mind and theirs, flowing through the energy that has and will always exist. This is an approximation of the concept of God. As humans, we think of things in a linear fashion because of our concept of time. However, the universe is not separate pieces which make up a larger picture. It's not galaxies and stars and solar systems and life. It's not something with a beginning and an end. It's not something that started one day and is continuing. It simply is. And everything is a part of the whole. Like a tree. A tree is all one thing that constantly changes. A tree is still a tree whether or not it blows in the wind, and we aren't bugs crawling on top of it. We are part of the tree. The branches, the leaves, the sap, the roots, it's all connected and affected by each part of itself. In the end, its pieces equal a tree. Just as we are all affected by the eternal energy that courses through us each and every moment of every day, because in the end, we equal the universe. That is Akira. While Kaneda is eventually expelled from the singularity, Tetsuo, the Esper kids, and Akira are not. There are many theories as to exactly what happened to them, but it's my inclination to think that they simply folded back upon themselves. Once you touch the universe so deeply, it makes little sense to hold form. A sense of personal identity is something for humans, but for those who have reached within the accumulated knowledge of the ether, the deep interconnectivity of all things would simply dissolve away your independent consciousness. To feel the never-ending and never-beginning experience of everything would simply spread you out through all existence, transform you back into pure ultimate energy. Unfortunately for the rest of us, that transference would cause a pretty big explosion, and in the end we're left with Kaneda in the wreckage of Neo-Tokyo, a city now laid to waste in the wake of a cleansing force of destruction, much like a body after chemo. The cancer is gone, but like always, the threat of a second bout lies in the back of one's mind as the movie ends. Cleansing destruction is a constant in all things. When something begins to rot, it breaks down to give life to something new. So where will you be when it all comes crashing down? That is Akira. And those are my thoughts on Akira. Thank you guys so much for making it to the end of the video, and thank you for 50,000 subscribers. I figured I would do a bigger movie for this monumentous occasion. It's very cool. We're actually closer to 60 now, so I guess we're kind of late, but couldn't be happier, and neither could the rest of the crew. So thank you guys so much for your love and support. Since we started the channel, it's very awesome. I know this is a little bit off the cuff, just had a ton of crazy stuff going on this summer. It's been wild. Hopefully I did Akira justice for you. Please leave your comments down below. If you have any questions, just let me know. A lot of this was heady stuff, but we've been trying to cultivate an intelligent, awesome audience on this channel, and it seems to be working out. People seem to really be liking what we're doing, and there's nothing better than that. You guys are awesome. So before I go, I just want to shout out our lucky patron of the week, Bullwick, thank you so much for your consistent and continued support. We really appreciate you, man. If you would like to be the lucky patron of the week, all you gotta do is sign up. Doesn't matter what tier it is, you get access to our private Discord and many other goodies. So check that out. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Instagram. We do have Twitch as well, and I stream sometimes. And other than that, I'm Mike. Thank you for watching Bonsai Pop, and we'll see you next week. Bye, guys.